All right, guys, so is everybody here? Yes and no, okay. Well, what we're doing today is create a prototype of a infinite jumper. Some of you may have heard of the game Doodle Jump. You know, if you've gone to Chuck E. Cheese with your kids or something, you might have seen where you kind of jump to each platform and you can go through the bottom of the platform. This is going to be kind of like that. We're not going to have a whole lot of time today, so I'm going to try to breeze through it in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So the first part of it, this is for very new to Unity, so we will be talking a little bit about how Unity works in general, the layout of the UI, how to use the tool in general. So one thing is I have a live session and an online session, so I want to make sure the people in the class know that we can options if you have some, but let's save it towards the end, maybe write them down so that we don't interrupt everybody online as well. It's going to be recorded, and of course we'll always share this. One thing to note is that we have shared our Twitter feed. You can come in here, and I think it's somewhere in here. If you look at the comments on one of these, hold on a second. There it is. Here, right here is a link to our materials and the code for the project today. And that's exactly what we'll be working off of. One of those things includes this step-by-step breakdown of how to do the project. One thing that they changed on me since I started using Unity, and I didn't realize it, but this little sample pack is slightly different now. It's called, and we'll get into that in just a second, but the sample assets beta is what it's called now. And a couple of the names of the files have changed as well. So just keep in mind, it might say prototype gray or 4x1, but it might be a little bit different accordingly, but they're all in basically the same place. So for those of you who don't know, Unity3D.com is where you go to download. You should have already done that now before. We're going to be building this on version 4.6, I believe, 4.5, the latest version, and everything should be pretty straightforward with that version. They have a free version, but they also have and then on top of that, if you want to publish to say the Android store or the Apple store, there's additional versions that you'd have to buy to upgrade that Pro package all the way up to get it in all the cross platforms. But that's one of the cool things about Unity is you kind of build it once. It uses Mono on the back end. Many of our students with the .NET framework. So what Mono is the cross-platform version of the .NET framework, basically. It goes on Macs. It'll run on all devices. So that's why they chose it. It's on a little bit old. You have to be cognizant of our memory and how much things we're doing because the garbage collect is just a little bit older. So we do need to be a little cognizant of that. So without further ado, let's just jump right into Unity 3D. Let me pull it up here. Here we go. Okay, so let me switch to the I think the 2x3 is the default layout. Is this what you see when you started it up? Yeah. Okay, well, just know that you can, right here is where you select to kind of change the way the layout looks. You might want to see different scenes and different different panels in different ways depending on what you're trying to do. That's the default. Sorry, I was already in default. So just know that we'll be doing a lot of different things. This particular here is in 3D mode. To switch it to 2D mode, you just click the little 2D button. There's a few other things that are different, but basically what you need to understand is that in the planes that in the systems that we're using, this is a left-handed system. That means Z is forward, X in the positive direction is up, and then Y in the positive direction is up, and X to the right is positive, okay? That's what that means. In a right-handed system, it's completely different, but Unity uses left-handed system. And you got, whenever you click this little guy right here, see it kind of flips around. That's the left hand, right? Oops, that's actually incorrect. No, it's right. That's right. It's all right. Okay, so forward is in the positive Z axis, Y is up, X is right. We're only going to be worried about dimensions, and that would be X and Y today. There's a third dimension still there, though. It's still actively being used, and that's how we control what is behind the what in a D game. Okay, and it's still the Z axis. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I like it a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to the tall view so we can see a bigger screen. But first, I'm going to start a new project. Let's start that new project, and it's hard to see on the screen, but let's see here. Whatever you name the directory is what the project is going to be called. So a project contains many scenes and many different assets. So let's call this one Infinite, I always misspell that, Jumper. All right. All these here are packages of assets. What's an asset? An asset is a picture, an animation, anything that you might need to move something or see something or hear something in the screen. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all the senses into the game, right? Well, assets let us do that. Assets are what are the little builds. And each one of these, there's a lot of different types of assets. You can see here you have light flares and parts. When I was starting out in video game development 15 years ago, I actually got an offer at a video game studio, and I was like, man, this is great. I'm going to go out and do video games. I'm excited. And they told me, yeah, basically what you'd be is the guy that makes the dirt. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's not exactly my bag. So I went into development, but I'm coming back around to it, and I realized what the guy was telling me was I was going to get to work on, you know, particle systems, which was actually kind of cool. If I'd have given it a shot, I might have liked it. But today's systems are completely different. The way things work makes it a lot easier for the developer. That's what Unity is all about, is making it easier for the developer to have rapid development and put it into production. Right now, in this new project that we're doing, we're not going to use any of these other than this sample assets beta, but I'm going to show you how to download that from the store in just a minute. Right now, I'm just going to set up a new project in the T plane. Remember? Oh, did I not click the 2D? Okay, now it's in the 2D plane. And you notice that there's no little compass up here anymore. That's because we only have 2D. You don't need to scroll around and see. If you're familiar with Visual Studio, the hierarchy is kind of like a node view of all the different items in your scene. Okay. Visual Studio has a solution explorer, and that's what this would be a kind of equivalent to. This here, if you were in like an HTML view, you can see the nested view of the HTML on the side. If you open it up, you might have seen that. The inspector is going to be like the properties view. And as we get more assets in here, that'll make a lot more sense. You'll see a whole lot of properties and components that you can add to your different things that are in your scene. Obviously, the play button up here starts your game. But when you're developing, though, you'll hit play, and I'll hit play now, and it doesn't do anything. But it opens the game window, the game panel. This game, you can play it right here, so you don't have to keep rebuilding it and opening it in another panel and then redoing things. And it's just an infinite time saver, in my opinion. This maximize on play, if I was to stop this and then go back over to the game window, maximize on play. I'm not going to do it because I can't get out of it right now. But if you do it, I don't think. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, I can get out of it, but it just maximizes it in the main window. So the scene view is though where you're going to be doing most of the work. This is where you're going to edit the objects that you bring on the screen. This is where you position things and make everything kind of line up. Okay, don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to just jump right in. This is going to be recorded and available on our website, so if you missed something, go ahead and just follow up on the video, and you can always ask questions on the website and whatnot later on. All right. 2 viewers online. Woohoo. So let me pull up my handy dandy cheat sheet so I know where to start. So this is the exact thing that we're going to follow. Like I said, a couple of these little packages that are in here are a little bit different. So if you want to pull that down and go ahead and follow along, that's fine too. Go to the Twitter feed, which is twitter.com/codercamps, and you'll see a post I just made with the link to download those assets. All right. So the first thing we need to do is one of the coolest things I think about the assets is the access to the asset store. The asset store, basically for computer programmer nerds like me, the asset store is a godsend because there's a lot of really creative and amazing people out there that do a lot of work for next to nothing. And I don't exactly understand their business model, but I'm great with it. So you can buy everything from entire bundles of 3D games to, you know, clones of Clash of Clans to basically any game you want, plus, you know, any audio files, animations, pictures, whatever you want right here. And a lot of it's free. The things we're going to use today are the free assets. We want to have assets. If you just scroll right down here, you're going to see a sample assets beta. It has a little guy with a car. These are the ones that Unity gives you for free. This might take a little while to download, so if you haven't downloaded it yet, sorry. It's going to take a while, and I've already downloaded it, so now when I go to it, it just says import. So basically, this is a glorified zip file. Okay, it has a whole bunch of stuff in it, all kinds of animations, meshes, materials, clip art, whatever, cool stuff. Not clip art. That was a little bit Office 95 ago. But now we have it in our project view over here. You can see here are our assets. Let me go ahead and switch this to my other view, my one column view. Oh, it didn't finish importing. Sorry. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. I got 2 screens going here, and it popped up this other thing. So it's going to ask you which ones do you want to go ahead and import. Here's all the assets that were kind of zipped up in that thing. We're just going to go ahead for sake of ease, just import. It does take a minute. While we're loading this, I'll tell you that on May 26th will be our first camp for Arcade Intelligence, which is going to be our new boot camp for Unity3D. It'll be a 9-week camp that you can come to and learn all about building new video games. It's kind of designed for people who want to open up their own game studio possibly, or just a hobbyist that wants to know more about their own. So we're building out that curriculum now. We've with Unity and some other content providers to get, you know, just a really spectacular curriculum together. It is intensive, so expect to spend about 80 hours of games and here down developing. So the guys in the classroom right now are shaking their going through right now in our regular web development boot camp, and it's going to be very similar to that. Also, this is going to be a 3-part series. So this is the first of them. We won't go into so much detail about how to use Unity or the UI. There's a lot more going on here. And actually, I forgot to show you one thing. If you want to use Visual Studio with it, how to do it, and I'll show you that in just a second. But there's a lot more going on in here. I highly recommend all the Unity videos. I breezed through it on a long trip to Disney World recently. You can watch a long cross country trip or something, or maybe just a weekend, free. So I would highly recommend watching all of those you can. They also do a lot of live video feeds, so that's awesome. Well, maybe I should have filtered it down to only the ones we need. Can y'all hear me okay going this way? Excuse me. So you can see it's right now it's importing some things that says Pro only in there. There's some features, different lighting, and quite a few other features that come with the Pro version. We're going to be using only the free version for these tutorials, but yeah. So if you're interested, they have and you can afford like the $1,500 I think it is for the Pro version. They also have a $75 a month kind of rent and always get the newest, latest subscription, where you can always get the latest version over time, which is great. It's kind of the same thing that Adobe did with all their products, their Creative Suite, and it's been really cool. All right, here we go. Come on, come on. I'm doing this on Surface Pro, Surface 3 Pro. So this is obviously taking up some extra CPU cycles to be broadcasting on the internet at the same time. So you do need to be aware that you need a pretty high-end machine to do games. But at the same time, you want to test all your games after it's done on some pretty low-end machines, because that's going to be more realistic. So now our sample assets have imported. Now, if you're familiar with Visual Studio, this is where it should kind of start looking a little familiar to you. This is similar to the Solution Explorer in Visual Studio. You can come in here and go. We're going to only here really, but sprites are just pictures. They're glorified pictures. And look, there we go. Now we got a bunch of inspector stuff over here. These are properties for those sprites, and a lot of that stuff we won't be using today. This is actually what the sprite looks like, as a block, but these are prototype pieces. A prototype means it's not a production ready. We're not going to push this thing out to production after we're done with it. If you want to use Visual Studio, you need to go down here to, and I can't read it on the board. Hold on a second, I got to figure out which one it is. It says Preferences, I believe. It's right here. And External Tools. And then if you have it already installed, you can just select which Visual Studio to use. We'll be using 2013 for this demo. The other option, if you installed, you should have seen a checkbox that said Mono Develop, which is a free edition, a free code editor. It's pretty decent. I just prefer Visual Studio. And a lot of people who even like Mono Develop say they prefer the old version of Mono Develop to the new one. But I think that's just preference. That we live most of the time in Unity, and then we jump over into that other one when we need something. When we need to do some code. Okay, so now we're ready. We got our assets in the project view. That's the very first step. And now we've downloaded the relevant assets, hopefully. And so now we're ready to create our first prefab. All right, so first let's just kind of look at how to use this tool. Our first prefab is going to be the ground. So I'm just going to say the ground is gray. And we can zoom in on that and make it, zoom is control scroller mouse up. Okay. Now, right now, I need to move it around, right? So they have different little handles up here, different tools, and you can just use your QWERTY keys right up there. switch between all the different tools. One of them is going to be position, one of them is rotate, one of them is scale, and then there's that other one that lets you kind of, it's a freeform scale. Okay, this one's pan, I believe, where I can hold the screen and pan around. So that's just a block. If it was a better resolution on the screen up there, we could see that it has little dots in it just to show us that it's 4 different pieces. I'm going to get us a little more real estate to play with. Okay, so a block is a block is a block, right? So I ought to be able to play this game right now and see that block. Uh-oh, I didn't put it in the view of my camera. Let's talk about the camera real quick. A camera is what the user sees, okay? So if you do this camera preview right here, so I know I need to move this up into the camera's view. I'm gonna also know, just because I've done this before, that I need to go ahead and put that on the 0 axis so that it starts right on the x-axis, right? Don't want it to be up or down. We want it right on the x-axis. Okay, so now if I hit play, oh, there it is. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to reposition my camera just a little bit. It's just an object in my scene like everything else. You see main camera right here. When you select it in the scene, it selects it over in the hierarchy. I can move just a little bit. That guy kind of looks like our floor as we build it up. All right. So we talked our first prefab. And what's our first prefab? People who are familiar with object-oriented programming might recognize the template kind of idea of a class becoming an instance of an object. We want to be able to use multiple floor pieces at different places, but we want to edit it in one place and it affects all of them. Does that make sense? So as we, so right now we don't have a prefab, all we have is a sprite on the screen. I like to organize my code and my games, so I'm going to go ahead and create a prefabs folder. I did that. You can do it by right-clicking, or you can click that little create button and do folders. And then I'm going to right-click prefabs, and I'm going to say create prefab. And I'm going to call this guy floor. Okay. Now, make this guy a part of this guy where we can reuse it all over the screen. I mean, that's what we want to do, right? All I have to do is drag him into there. And you'll notice it went from gray to blue. When it's blue, that means that the free is usable. Now, this guy is still not a prefab, so now if I drag my floor prefab over there, it becomes the right. It becomes that. What's powerful about that is now we're going to change that prefab. Let me put him 0. Can't see. 0. Okay. Now we want to do something. Okay, so right now it's just a picture. It could be a picture that the character could run around and never touch. It has no substance in the game. The way we give things substance in the game is 2 ways. We give a box collider. Well, that's it. Right now, what a box collider is saying, box collider 2D. You see that? And now if you look real close, it's got a green. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong button there. All right, it's got a green box around it. You see that? That's the box collider. If any 2 box colliders come together, we can make it have a trigger, or it could say, hey, these things can't collide together. All right, and we define our objects more and more complexly depending on where those box colliders are. Okay, so we drag this on there as our prefab, and now we want to apply it to all prefabs. But let me show you what happens if you don't do that right then. Because right now, that box collider is only on that particular one, this one, not this one. See, it doesn't have a green box. This prefab has a green box. This one does not. Because while we can do prefabs and make them the same everywhere, we could say this particular prefab needs to have its own set of special components and properties. Okay, but we want to make it all prefabs. As I select that one right here and say apply, I said apply. Oh, there you go. And now when I click it, it has the box collider around it. What? No cheers? No. Come on, that was pretty impressive. All right, we need to make sure this guy is still at 0. It's going to be more and more, you're going to use prefabs all over the place, not only in this game, but typically, just generally speaking, a lot. This game is just going to be a show and tell kind of learning experience. It's not necessarily the only way, and it's not necessarily the best way. We have a limited amount of time, so we want to throw it all together. I'm just going to hit Control D, duplicates. And this prefab, I just duplicated it a whole bunch of times. You see that? Now, one thing we haven't talked about is that each one of these prefab objects is a game object. Anything you bring onto the screen is a game object. Kind of strangely, you can have an empty game object where it has nothing to see. It's a little bit of a hard concept to get, but I'll show you how powerful. We can create an empty one right here, okay? And I'm gonna say, and it's just right out there in the middle of nothing. I'm gonna call that guy whole floor. Okay, now I'm gonna select all these floor pieces and drag. They didn't lose their individuality. Okay, they're still individually floor pieces, but what they did now, their positions are relative to the parent. So if I say 0 here, now they all shift down, and I'm going to have to actually go through and shift all those back up to the 0 plane because I did that a little bit out of order. So now they're on the same plane. Okay, does that make sense? We've grouped them. This gives us an ability to now I can move the whole floor all at once, as opposed to having to pick each one individually up. Whole floor thing is not a prefab. It's not blue. See how whole floor is white, but these are whole prefabs. They're blue. Okay, so that's just the floor pieces. Now, let's see. Did I get all my things here? Drag this right. Yes. Okay, so this should start at 0 and 15. I think I got off when I bundled them up a little bit. We break them back out. I'm going to set them at, this first one needs to be at 0. I'm just going to move these other ones down until they make sense. They don't have to be perfect. They can't leave any holes though. Your guy will fall through them. Okay. Now that we've done that, let me zoom in a little bit more. All right, lined them up pretty good. Now we can select all of those. Now we can drag them under the hole, and they're all at the right positioning. They're sorted at 0, 0. All right, now comes the cool part. You guys are like, okay, let's see what it looks like, Dave. Let's go. You've been talking all this smack. Oh, look at that. We got something on the screen, but I can't do anything. Great. Actually, let's go ahead and make that even bigger. I'm just going to copy those guys and duplicate all of them. Control D. Make them even bigger. I just need a floor that doesn't separate. Let's see what that looks like. Alrighty, not too bad. Need to move my camera. I think I moved my camera earlier out of the positioning. Let's just move this whole guy this whole floor. Let's just move it to this way a little bit. There we go. You're like, well, Dave, that's great. Great. But what we really need is a guy. I can't even play this thing. Luckily, in our sample assets, they've given us a really cool little guy that we can use. It's in your prefabs directory of the sample assets, and all you got to do is bam, drag him on the screen. I think that is so cool. Watch this. Boom, he stopped on our floor, even though I got a little bitty baby hole right there. And now I can jump, I can crawl. What? All right, and this concludes our demo for today. No, that's not a game at all. That's cool though, right? We didn't really do much work, and now we've got a little something showing. There's no death condition, no points, there's no reward, no bang for your buck, but you can jump. Why did he stop down here on these bricks? Because he has a box collider 2D. The bricks has them, and he has them. Look at it. He has a circle collider and a box collider on him. Okay? So here's the circle collider, and there's his box collider. Okay? He's got two different colliders. So that means that his circle collider looked at where it was and said, am I colliding with any other collidable object? And said, oh, I need to stop. That's all built into that little guy. They did a pretty good amount of legwork for us there. Okay, so it would be great if I could jump and then actually land on something. One quick thing to note, we need to go in here and do something, and we need to tag these guys. Let's see here. We need to put these guys in. Where is it? I can't hardly read that up there. Let's create a new tag. Oh, it's a layer though. I need a floor layer. I'm gonna go ahead and create my own little floor layer here. I thought they had one built in. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over here, and all these floor pieces, I'm going to set to floor. So now they know that's a layer. It's kind of like how we programmatically can group things together. We call that a floor. And now in my little guy, I'm going to say, there's one of these things in here. What is ground? You see that? We can actually modify that according to the different layers. And all we want to be ground is just the floor elements that we did. Okay? Because actually our guy is never going to hit our little bouncy pads that are coming up. So that's just a little add-on that they did for us, and we have to modify it just a little bit to let them know what's the floor. But so I think it would be cool if we could be able to go ahead and put a platform out there. We're going to create a new prefab because we're going to have multiple platforms, right? So we're going to call those platforms bouncers. All right, so we got a prefab there. Our prefab, you know, in the demo, this is where we kind of got a little bit off from the script and what's here. I'm just going to drag another gray box, and then I'm going to change its color a little bit just to make it look different. And here's my color picker, came up on my other screen. I like, that's hard to see. Okay, I'm going to use a different color just for right now. We use the white one because it seems to be showing up a little better. There we go on the screen here. And I want a red box. That's where we're going to be our jump points. Okay, let's scale that just a little bit. Make it a little bit smaller so our platforms aren't quite as tall. Okay, now one thing here we're going to need is a box collider. Now, I just told you that we're not going to actually hit that thing, but this box collider is going to be a little bit different. This box collider is actually a trigger. And what a trigger does is lets us call a piece of code when a collider hits this collider. Okay? This guy, our little man here also has something called a rigid body. Just so you know, to call a trigger, one of them has to have a rigid body, which means it acts on physics. The physics engine has to do a cycle to look at all the rigid bodies. This thing, we don't want it to fall out of the sky. If we put a rigid body on it, it would just fall straight to the floor. It would look kind of cool. We can make it do some dances, but we don't need it to do that, okay? So let's zoom in on this guy just a little bit, this platform that we built here. And we're gonna, okay, that's not right. We're going to change the size just a little bit because we don't want it on the outsides. And we don't need the whole collider. Now we're going to move this up just a hair. All right. Why did I do that? I did that because when the guy comes jumping down and hits this, his circle collider on the bottom of his feet is going to hit this one. It's going to then trigger a script that we're about to apply to this thing. And then we're going to thrust that guy up in the air when he hits that little area, okay? Make sense? So right now we have this prototype white, which doesn't make any sense. I'm going to call that the bounce box. And we're going to pull the bounce box down into the bouncer prefab. Okay, now we can delete this guy because we just made it a prefab, right? Boop. Got the same thing again. Understand? We kind of create stuff in the scene, and then we can make prefabs out of it. Let me just catch up here a little bit. We put one thing that we forgot to do, and so this is where we're going to have to modify our bouncer, is that we have materials. So if you think about materials and textures and in physics, things can be viscous or slippery. Things can be high friction or sticky. Oh, and there's also some buoyancy, some bounciness to friction, to different physics materials. And so we also have that concept here. And so right now, if we left it like it is, this poor guy would jump up here and he would get his gut stuck kind of like right there. And he would kind of like hang on the edge. We don't want him hanging on the edge. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to take that slippery material and I'm going to drag it right to my material on my box collider. Makes it slippery, so he slides right off of it. Okay? Is trigger is selected. We have those box collider. Oh, we need to apply that to all of the future and all of the existing, and now we have. Okay, so now we're ready for our first script. Where's the oohs and ahs? Come on. Thought I was paying you guys more than that. Scripts. All right, so we created a scripts folder. I'm going to do this in C# because I like it. You can do it in multiple different things. I have not used Boo, but I think it's something like Python. JavaScript is like JavaScript, but not. C# is pretty much just C#. And so this script is going to be called bouncer script. Bouncer script. And so now we need to fire up Visual Studio. This might take a second. Okay, I've got it over here, but you need to see it. All right, this is a basic script. This is how all your scripts are going to start. Those of you familiar with C#, notice that this is really a class that inherits from another class, which is called mono behavior. That mono behavior class gives us a lot of different little functions and stuff that we can call and access to all of their core libraries and whatnot right here. The start is obviously going to be for initialization because that's what it says. And update is called every cycle of the game engine. I'm not going to go into what a game engine is right now, but Unity has its own game engine, and basically it's just an infinite loop with a little exit strategy, okay? And how you hit, when you hit exit, it says, okay, stop whiling, right? It's just going to say forever. And every time it goes through there, it's going to call this update function right here. Okay, so one thing we're going to need in here is a bounce factor. How high do we want? So this script is going to be attached to all of our bouncers. This is what's going to make the guy go, right? We want him to jump up there and then bounce back up. Okay, so how high do we want him to go? That's a good question, right? We might want to change that depending on the bouncer and location and what level the guy is on. So I'm going to go ahead and put that bounce factor into a little variable here. And most of the time we use floats, not decimals or doubles or anything like that, because floats are the smaller unit of precise measurements. And we want to save memory. And now we need a special function that you don't see here called onTriggerEnter 2D. Not onTriggerEnter. onTriggerEnter would be for a 3D game, or mesh gliders. Everything's kind of suffixed with 2D. Okay, so now we have what hit the bouncer. Well, it's the other thing. We know it's going to be the player because there's no other things in the physics world going to be playing in our little game. But maybe later on, it's going to be something else. Maybe it's a enemy, and if enemies accidentally hit our bouncer, do we want the bouncer to send him up in the air? Maybe so, but we got to define that in our game, right? Right now it's just other, and so other dot rigid body 2D. Remember I told you rigid bodies are what handle the physics in a game. The velocity equals vector2.0. If you're not familiar with vectors, don't worry about it. If you know x, y, like x comma y, that's basically a vector, okay? We have an x. In this particular example, we have an x velocity and we have a y velocity so that we know how fast they're going in each direction. And what we want to do here is we want to stop that guy. He's falling down and he's about to hit the thing, the bouncer. We don't want our push momentum that we're about to put on it, a push force, to be counterbalanced with gravity. We want to stop him in his tracks. So I'm going to push him hard, basically. Ignore gravity for a second. Other, that rigid body, 2D, add force, vector2 dot up. They give you these handy little things. You know you want him to go up. Remember I told you up is positive in the y-axis. So we don't have to really think about it. And then we want them to go up by a factor of whatever we set in the bounce factor. And in this first mode, impulse, let's just not worry about that for right this second. Can we agree on that? It can be a short burst, or it can be a sustained force, and there's different ways you can handle that. So we need to save the script. Now we go back over to our game here, and we click on our bouncer object. All right, so you see our bouncer script is in here now. All I have to do to attach that script to him is boop, drag it right over there. So all of these right here are components or scripts that are basically already given to us. The bouncer script itself is the one we just wrote. Now I can change this bounce factor. It's 4 right now, but it could be whatever we dream up. Okay. So you should also note. Let's just do a real quick thing. Let's look at this empty game object. It has something. So every object that they're giving us or doing something with starts with an empty game object, and then they just added components to it. So there's no magic going on. All right, it's not like there's something else. They all are game objects. They all started with nothing on it, and they just added components to it to make it something else. Make sense? And so we added our own little script, and that little script is right there. Since we added this, I need to go ahead and apply that to all bouncers out there. Okay. At this time, what would you expect to happen? Will it go up? Yeah? All right, let's see what's going to happen. I got to move him into position because I can't jump that high. Too much pizza. I'm going to put him about right there somewhere. Make sure it's in the camera. Let's see what happens. I might get errors. Boing, 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 boing. Okay. It did something. Not exactly what I wanted it to do, though. I got a glitch somewhere. Let's crunk it up. Let's see what happens. Oh! He's a high jumper now. So it looks like my bounce factor is a little bit off. Let's go back over to our script and just pump that up to maybe a factor of 10 or something. Let's see if that helps us. Now we go back into Unity. I need to see it keeps that, so I need to go back to 10 here because we manually modified it. Your script's default will be overridden. Oh, I need to do that in a second, but not right now. Let's run it again. It feels pretty good, but it's still not quite bouncy enough for me. Let's go ahead and just manually adjust it here until we find one we like. That's pretty good. That's getting there, but I think it's a little too much now. Let's go with 17. Can we do 17 and a half? Is that valid? Yes, because that's a float. It's a little playing around, figuring out if this is, oh, that looks good. Like that. Okay, so now we got a bouncy thing. We need to apply those changes to all of our prefabs. Now they're all going to be 17 and a half. Yay. Now we can just drag some more on there, right? Let's drag a couple more bouncers on there. Boom. Boom. Let's see what happens. Yay, I don't even have to jump. Cool. We have a game. It's still not a great game, but we have a game. So one thing we need to do right now before we forget anything else is go ahead and save our scene. We haven't saved this masterpiece that we've been working on. I hate for someone to pull a PCU moment and trip over the cord. And I'm just going to name this scene main scene because I'm not that original. And so you see, you might not have noticed, but it added it to my project view. So it always keeps kind of a live view. You can just drag things in using File Explorer or whatever, and it'll drag things in over there. It'll automatically show up over there. So kind of a little bit different than Visual Studio, where you have to manually add an item to your project file. This is more directory based, where everything is just shows up automatically. So one of the things right now is it's kind of boring. One reason it's boring is that when I jump up, the camera, like if I had another platform up there, I couldn't get to it anyway, right? The camera needs to move, right? So we're going to build us another script. Let's see here, create script. This one's going to be called camera follow. Dun, dun, dun. And as you might suspect, we're going to go in there. Here's where some of the cool things with the Unity UI works. We're going to need access to our player object in this script. And so if we do that, just like that, and now we go over here and pick our camera component, because everything is a game object, we can add components to this too. Camera follow. Okay, but now you see that player is opened up, and I don't have a game object to put in there as of yet. Watch this guy. Here's my player. Boom. Boom. You didn't have to go find that guy or anything. That's powerful. You may not see it right now, but that's powerful stuff. You're playing with black magic now, son. The update function should adjust the camera's position as the player gets higher at higher levels, right? Whoa. Where'd my mouse go? There it is. So if the player, so the transform, just so you know, is their current position, scale, and rotation. Okay, that's what transform means. That's that first component that all game objects have. You can't have a game object without it that I'm aware of. Maybe you can. Ask someone smarter. But as far as I know, you can't. And so we're saying if he's above ground and the camera's and the camera hits this update function, then we want to check to see if the player, his position is greater than the current object's position. And so that you know, all these components have their own transforms, and the components mimic the transform of their parent object. So you can just say transform position y. So why is it important that we put that there? Well, if the guy doesn't hit the block, we don't want the camera going back down. That's our death condition, right? As we're going up, if he misses his block, he needs to go back down. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that the player's position is greater than the camera's position. That's what this transform means. This is the camera position. Obviously, that's the player's position. So if that happens, if the player did go above us, then I want to set the player's new position to a new vector. 5 is, the camera's new position, excuse me. 5 is just going to be in the middle of the screen. Player transform position y is the y value, and the z needs to be -10. Remember I told you z doesn't usually matter? Well, the camera's z does, because it needs to be away from the scene, right? The sprites and everything, so you can actually see what's going on. It has to be a little bit further away. And so we want to keep it in that range. We're going to change this again in a little bit, but that'll work for right now, I think. Let's see if it works. Well, it kind of worked. Looks like we got, oh, I got a death condition in there, but guess what? It ain't real. Ha! Back. All right, we didn't actually kill the dude. We got a little more work to do. So it looks like I have my axes off a little bit. I don't know how I did that, but nobody's perfect. I'm just gonna cheat a little bit and just move all that stuff. If I can get this camera view to go away. I'm gonna just kind of scooch this stuff over. Let's see what happens. Oh, it still didn't look great. How did that guy get loose? Oh, I think I still, okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I need to scooch my floor. All these main levels, not these guys. So let's move them this way. That ought to be pretty good. It might have a little bit of a glitch when we first start up, but we could always sit here forever and fix that. Oh, there we go. Better, right? Ah. Now we've kind of got a little bit of a functioning game coming on. So I had to, what I just did was I had to center my camera to the X position of 5 so that I know where to put my blocks in just a few minutes. It has to be right in the middle of where my blocks are going to spit out. So because we want this to be an infinite jumper, we're gonna have jumping pieces going up here forever. One thing that right now we can do is, well, we can save our scene first of all, but we can also go in here and I can show you the coolness. That is the, well, not if I don't take that maximize on play off. We take that off real quick. The scene view. The scene view updates in real time. Okay, so if I wanted to say, deactivate that guy's bouncer script. Well, there we go. He fell through it because I took off the box collider. So you can see this guy's position in real time. If you look right up here, well, I got to get back up on there. You can see that guy's position changing in real time. So all these variables and parameters and things that are in our scripts and our components, they all update as you go. We're in our first hour. Got to just keep on trucking through. All right. So next step. So far, let's just recap briefly. We have learned the concept of prefabs. Prefabs are when we want to reuse the same sprite or image or sound or whatever game object multiple times, or collection of game objects for that matter, multiple times around the scene and not have to recreate it or duplicate it and then go back and change it everywhere if we changed one little thing. Pretty cool, pretty powerful in a game. It also does something else. It also takes away render cycles, which is an important concept in video game programming. Every time you have to build up these things and recreate the objects, a prefab saves those cycles because it already knows how to do it. It does it once and then it just kind of duplicates it. So realize that we don't just do prefabs to save us time, but also to save the CPU time in the clock cycle. All right. The bouncer prefab. We already did that. Create the platform generator. Dun, da, da. Yay. Oh. Nobody says yay anymore. Go back to our scene view. Let's look at where our camera is. Where is the bounds of our camera? This camera is humongous. Something is going on there. Field of view is huge. No, that's not it. I think it's because I accidentally started in a 3D project. Don't worry about it. It'll still work. What we want to happen is just out of the actual view of the 2D screen, it looks like somewhere right up here-ish, we want an object to kind of always follow the camera, right? And spit out a new platform so that guy can just jump up there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new game object. And it's an empty object. We're going to position it right up here. I know that I want its X position to be 0. Whoa, he's a good jumper. These guys are just a little bit off. Oh, I think I moved my camera again. Damn it. Unselect the camera. A little too much. There we go. Pretty good. And so now our game object over here, here it is. This is going to be our spawner. I'm going to name it spawn point. And you can rename these things just by like a normal kind of file menu style, or you can go up here and change it right here. Either way works. And now in this spawn point, we need to give it a little bit of a special tag, and I'm going to call it a respawn. It's not technically what a respawn is, but we can go with it, right? It's a prototype. Drag the object to the top left and put above the camera's view. Okay, I think we've got that done. I wanted to have a little bit of something to see, just so it's not an empty object. So I'm going to go ahead and just put another game object in there. Just something to see. It's not actually going to be visible. We're going to take it out. I'm going to just put a quad in there. You'll never see this though, because it's always going to be moving with the camera. And how do we make it move with the camera? We move it under the camera, because then its position is always relative to the camera. All right, let's demonstrate that, because oh look, we missed it a little bit, but it makes it easy to see. It always stays with the camera. See, it moved it up. So it's a little bit too low. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up here. Check it again. There we go. Let's see if everything looks right in this other. We'll fall off the world over here, but that's okay. Okay, so a spawn point, just so you know, in case you're not a super huge nerd gamer like me, is the place where something is gonna be created. Like usually you'll have a spawn point for enemies in a game or something, but in this case we're gonna spawn up a new platform, our bouncer, right? So a spawner is where a new object or something in the game scene is going to be created. That's right. That's kind of a vernacular term, though. It's not necessarily a technical term. It's more of a what we call it kind of deal. Okay, so we have it in the coordinate system to local to the camera. Now we need to create a new script for the spawner, because it's not going to know what to do unless we tell it to. I think a lot of newbie developers think that video games just automatically have an exit button and automatically, do things. Your game won't do anything unless you tell it to do it. So we're going to call that a spawn I called it, I wanted to name it the same as in the script here. So spawner script is what I called it. And then we need to go to our spawn point and put it in there. And now we'll edit it. Okay, so some other cool things are gonna, just like we did with the player earlier, we might want to have multiple different kinds of games objects that we want to spawn, you know, at random sequence and whatnot. But we all know that we only have one bouncer object for right now, but later on we might have different types of bouncers and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and make this work. If I can type, easy for me to say, for pretty much anything. We can spawn another player controller up there if we wanted to, but we don't want to. So I'm going to have a special function that's going to get sent a message to say spawn, and creating a new object is as easy as instantiate. And we're going to have a few different parameters in here. One of them is items to spawn. We're going to randomize which item we pick. If there's only one in there, so be it. Range 0 to items to spawn dot length. So you get what that does? It gives us it could give us 0. It's going to give us an integer, first of all, from 0 to the length. So if the length of the array is only one object, that means we can only have 0 to 0. It does not include the upper boundary. And we're going to put it at a new vector 3 random dot, we're going to randomize the x value. That's the left and the right, right? We don't want them to know where it's coming out. 0, 11. We might have to tweak that because I kind of messed up some stuff in there earlier. But that's okay. That's part of the process. This is a prototype. It's not supposed to be perfect. And so I'm saying that the new object that we're creating is that object's Y position is going to be the position of the spawn point in the Y, because it's always following the camera. So it's always going up with the character. And so it's always going to be above. And there's another thing here that we're not going to even begin to talk about, but just know that most of the time, oh wait, Z needs to be oh, never mind. This is a vector. It's a vector 3, but Z is just going to be 0. Where'd my mouse go? Move that up there. It makes it easier to read. Sorry about that. And it's called, let's just not even talk about it. I can't see what that says. That says quality level. That's not even close. It's quaternion. Sorry, I have to bring it to my screen so I can see it for a second. Quaternion. I guess I could do this. That would make it easier on all of us. Sorry about that too. Yay. Oh, now you can see. See, that would have been a good time to say something, guys. Anyway. Okay, so basically what I'm saying here is instantiate a new object. When this spawn function gets called, instantiate a new object. The items to spawn is going to have a collection up here, an array of all the items that are possible for that spawn point to spawn. And I'm going to randomize which one of those we pick. I want you to put it at a spot that's on the x-axis between 0 and 11, which is basically our gameplay board. I might have to, like I said, modify that just a little bit if I got something off. And then the transform position is wherever the spawner is, and since it's staying up with our our camera, it's going to always be above where the player is. That's why we put it out of the screen. Okay? Let's not worry about this one, like I said. All right. So now, right now, we could play this and nothing would happen. Nothing is ever going to call this spawn point, spawn function. What we need to happen is something to instantiate, to send this, our spawner, a message and say, hey, an event has occurred. Something, trigger an event. And so we already have an event that kind of needs to happen in sync with this. And that is when the guy bounces on the paddle. When he bounces on that, we know that we need to put another place for him to bounce to above it. So we can go back in our bouncer script, modify this a little bit. We're going to add a couple of parameters up here. We're going to say public game object spawner, because we need the object, the context of our spawner, bool has spawned. We only want them to spawn a new one once. If not, he would just sit there and bounce on it and it would create a new one every single time, okay? We don't want that to happen. In the start section, we need to get context to our spawner. The only reason we have to do it this way in this particular case is because this is attached to a prefab. And the prefabs do things a little bit different. You can't just drag those guys over there. So game object, find game object with tag. Remember, we tagged this one with respawn. I told you it wasn't actually a respawn point, but it's close enough. A respawn in a game is typically where the player starts up again. What's my error here? Cannot implicitly apply game object. Oh, I got the wrong function. There we go. We know that our game only has one, so it doesn't matter. Additionally, down here in the trigger, when the guy hits the bouncer, we want to say if we haven't already spawned one, then take the spawner and send him a message, which is the name of the function technically that we want him to call. We want the spawner to go ahead and call spawn, right? That's going to create our new object. And then we also need to hit change has spawned equal to true. There's a lot of moving parts here, right? This is the bouncer script. When the guy comes in and jumps on the thing, it's going to call the thing, and it's going to do. It's a lot of little moving parts, and this is an easy little basic game. So I think you can see now how it can get unwieldy if you're not careful. But it's a very verbose system here. Uh-oh, what happened? Array index out of range. Oh, thank you, Helpy Helperton. What did we forget to do? Huh? On our spawn point, we forgot to put anything in there to spawn. So what do you think we should spawn? I say bouncers. I'm all for a bouncer. So I can just drag that guy right in there. Let's see what happens. This could be a very difficult game. I don't know. Boom. Oh, we're not jumping high enough. But it worked. It looks like it's spawning them all in the middle. We might have to work on our math a little bit. Let's move our spawn point down a little. First of all, I got to zoom out here somehow. Oh, in the scene view, Dave. I don't want that visible, so let's just go to that quad and just, first of all, we can take off that mesh collider anyway. This mesh renderer is what makes it show up, so let's just take it out of the scene. Whoa, we're working a little bit here. Whoa. All right, it's not quite great yet. One thing I noticed is my guy isn't really jumping at the right height. I think he needs to be a little bouncier. So I think we had it right at about 20 earlier. Let's go ahead and apply that to all of my bouncers here. Whoa. Whoa. All right. So another thing came up just then. Did y'all notice? I'm not really jumping on them. I'm jumping under them. What's happening? That's not cool. That's not what we want. We want him to have to jump on top of it. But look, he wouldn't make that one either. We're gonna have to do some adjustments. But so I want to look at that again. How do you think we could go ahead and adjust that so that the bouncer script only works if you're coming down? We only add this force if you're coming down. If player dot, oh, excuse me, if other dot what? What does physics? Rigid body 2D velocity dot y is less than 0, then we do this. Is that right? All of our math is probably wrong in here, or our units of measure in here. Oh, look at that. Now he only bounces up when you come down. Oh, it's still a little bit hokey, but it worked. Getting better. Okay. So we got a working game there. I think we could adjust some of the spawn points and probably a little bit easier. It's spawning in the screen, which I don't like, but it's still not doing right. Anyway, follow the script. I didn't go by the script. It'll work right, and you can see it working right. You can get all those metrics on these X and Y positions of all these different things from the share. The real project is in there. So just real quickly, we can add some bounce sounds. We can add some ambience, and we need to put a death condition. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so let's do it quick. Adding a sound. So there's another package called, I just picked an 8-bit package because I like 8-bit sounds. And this looked like a very 8-bit game. Go to the store, and it's called 8-bit Rampage Free Edition. Everybody's trying to download that package right now. Oh, man. What is going on here? Am I really offline? I am not really offline. I don't know what it's talking about. Let me see which one is right. Let's try that again. Maybe it was just a glitch. Presentation gremlin glitch. Or not. Can anyone else get to the asset store? It doesn't like me. All right, let's see if we can just find any other sound in here. I'm sure it's got some effects in this one. I liked a couple of those. I don't even know where they are in here. Oh, it's probably under. Scripts, no, no, no. Wouldn't be effects. Environment, doubt it, maybe. Water, skyboxes, physics materials, no. Well, we're gonna have to skip the sound, I think. It's going for you now? I'm getting no love here. Hopefully we're still broadcasting. Our non-connection. I was hoping like a little sound file. Oh, here's one. Audio, anything. I'll just take any clip at this point. So you can go over here and crash hard. Let me turn sound on in the room here. Okay, so you can select any file in there. Well, that does not sound like a hard crash to me. It really doesn't like me today. You can hear it over here, right? You can pick anything, acceleration line. I just want to show you how to attach the sound, okay? So to add a sound, we have, first of all, to have any sound in your scene, you have to have an audio listener. Luckily, they put one on the main camera by default. You can do some different things. I think that's pretty much the only one you'd ever want, but sometimes you'll delete your main camera, especially if you're in a first-person shooter or something, because your first-person controller will already have the camera. And so if you find that you can't play sounds, know that you have to have at least one audio listener. Select the bouncer box. And we're going to add what's called an audio source. All right, this audio source has a lot of different little things on it. We're just going to use most of the default settings. Play on awake, we need to uncheck, because that would say every time you play this, every time you create one of these, go ahead and play it. We don't want that to happen. I'm going to play this crash hard every time we jump. And so we got an audio clip there, crash hard. All right. And so that's done. We need to click apply in our prefab deal so that it does it to all of them. Now you see all of them have this little speaker on it. One little line of code to change our bouncer script to actually call the play on that sound. And that's going to be right down here. We'll add that in. And that's going to be get component audio source. So we added an audio source to the object. Now we're going to get the audio source from the object that we just added, and we're just going to call play. Now, if you don't define the source to play, like we dragged that other file over there, you can pass it in right there as a different audio clip. You can define multiple audio clips and say which audio clip to play from the same source. But we already know we only have one sound. And now, if everything's, the gremlins got out of my system. Sounds like a machine gun fodder going off. I'm pretty good at this game. Just letting y'all know. Pretty awesome. Oh, see, it's still a little something going wrong there on our jumper script. We need to look into one day. Oh, you know what it is? Earlier, I forgot to do something. On our little guy here, I disable his top, his square, his box collider right here. I disable his box collider so that it looks more natural. Oh, you can't reach that one. Oh, I think I got it. I think I can hit it. I can time it just right. Oh, no. All right. So that's the basics of playing a sound. You noticed in that particular example, it kind of sucks because that sound is really long and it kind of overlaps the other sounds. So if we had a shorter sound, or if I had more choices here to go with in this demo, I would probably pick a much shorter sound. I didn't see any in here. Anywho. Oh, there's an audio. Let's see. Oh, that's the one we used before. Let's see what this aircraft has. Oh, that's long as hell. That's not what I want. If you can, I don't know how. You might be able to clip it. Audio clip. You would think you could clip it, but I don't see a way right there, and it's not. It's certainly outside the scope of my knowledge. Death condition. So this is kind of the last little step. We need to be able to die. And that means we need to have a couple of things on here. One is a box that says, hey, he died. What kind of box do you think we need? No, I don't want it in the floor. I actually want it in the camera, so I'll go ahead and put it in there. This is going to be called, aptly, Death Box. And we're going to add a component to Death Box. Remember, all objects start out this way. We can just add a collider box collider 2D to him. We're going to increase the size of that collider to be basically everything under our camera view, right? If he goes down here, he's toast. Needs to be a trigger, because we're going to trigger some code to say, hey, he's toast. And what else do we need here? I think that's about it for the box collider, at least. So our death box here, got it. Got it. Okay, now all we need is a script to handle that death box, that event on that box collider 2D. I'm going to call it death script. How morbid. We're going to go in here and do our on trigger enter 2D. Just so you know, there's also a on trigger exit 2D. So as you leave the collider, you might want to do something. Alrighty. If other dot compare tag This just says, does the other one have this tag? And the little player controller that we drug on the screen and gives us everything, it also gives us a tag called player. So we can see if that is the player. Fair enough? Application, this is the whole scope of the whole game. Load level, game over. A level is the same as a scene. Okay? Have we created a game over scene? No. No, we have not. Just checking to see if you're still awake. We need to drag the death script over onto our death box. Let's see what happens now. We should get an error. Boom. Hey, pretty close. I think I got my death box is a little too high. Lower him down a little bit. See what happens this time. Looked like I died before I was actually out of the scene. See, still did. Huh? The yellow arrow is the y-axis. Now, that's pretty close. You could move it even further down, but he might catch an accidental bounce, and I don't want that dude to live. He deserves it. My game is pretty tough. That's pretty good. All right, so we caught an error, and that was that we didn't have a scene. So save this scene. Big, bold, capital letters. Save your scene. And now we're going to go say new scene. And that new scene, if it ever comes up here, did I hit new scene? Oh, I hit save scene. New scene, sorry, is a, notice that we have the same project files and the same everything to use, but the hierarchy changed. So the hierarchy is dependent upon the scene, and we can have multiple scenes within a same game. And so I want to go ahead and save this scene as, anybody guess? Game over. Game over. And I'm going to add a game object in here, a little UI, some text. Whoa. That is some big text. I added a canvas with some text on it. Does that say 2D or 3D? It says 2D. Zoom way out for this one. All right, it's hard to see on this screen, so I'll go ahead and change the color for you and make it a little bigger. Well, font size, line spacing, font size is really big. Oh, I had it too big. All right. We'll scale it up. We'll move it over here. What do you think it should say? Oh, you think? Y'all are the smart kids. Game over. Huh? Thanks for playing. Okay, that's gonna be lined up right in the middle of our script and our screen, I mean. That's good. And now we probably want to have a button where they can start over. Possibly. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to be that guy. Say, nope, one shot, you're done. retry. Alrighty then, I'm gonna go ahead and scale that up because I can't. These things work in scale and some of them don't. There we go. Had the wrong one selected. I had to click on the button to get the right handle to the thing that'll actually scale. It's a little quirky. This UI thing is brand new. They just came out with that in the latest edition. All right, so we don't have a retry script yet, but we can build one. We're going to call that guy is going to be called, I want to call it the same thing for you here, retry script. Alrighty. And the retry script just needs to have a function that says, you can call it anything at this point, but I called it, I think it does have to be public. I'm not positive about that, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it just in case. Begin new game. Doesn't take any parameters or anything. Load level, main scene. All right. Now we go back over to our button. Select him. Get this guy out of our way. You can see it has some on-click handler things down here, and the list is currently empty. We need to click one that says runtime only. We need to select the object by which, let's go ahead and drag that onto the script, onto the button. Oh, I dragged that the wrong way. Retry. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and select the button. Could have named it default retry button to make our lives easier there. Retry script, begin new game. So it goes through all the components on that button and lets you pick the function out of those that you want to call. Got it? So now if we start in this scene, it's not going to work. Ha! Thought you had a friend. We got to go back over here. And this thing over here is a little bit weird to me, but you have to add all your scenes to the build. All right, so we go to build settings, and now we have to open that other scene up and add it in there. Save your scene. What? What does that say right there? Level main scene couldn't be added because it has not been added to the build settings. That's what I'm trying to do. Add current. Let's try to reload it. Well, it should be the same thing. Oh, you're right. I was just zoomed. I was zoomed hella out. Like way out. All right. So we can play our little game. Oh man, I died. And ta-da! Yay! So we have death conditions and a way to restart our game. It's still not an amazing game, but this is a prototype. Oh. All right. Well, that concludes what I know about Unity. No. That concludes this exercise. And sorry for the little snafus. We had gremlins in our presentation. But game over until we see you again, and happy coding.